Welcome to the Winning Hand Podcast, a podcast all about Marvel Champions, one card at a time. My name is Boomguy, and I am joined today by my usual co-host, LazyTitan.
What's going on?
How you doing, man?
I'm doing well.
Yeah, good to hear it. And a special returning guest, Nelson.
Hey, how's it going? Happy to be here.
Thank you. Mr. All Over Cards himself is here. I'm super excited to have you here. You have been here twice before. This is your third time on the show. Do you remember the episodes you were on before?
Was
Do you remember
Sky Destroyer?
cards? Yes, Sky Destroyer was one of them.
And then no, I don't remember the other one.
The other one was Beast, the ally.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah,
This- This is episode 69. Do you remember which episodes those were?
Not at all. I don't remember half the videos I do on my channel.
That's
so.
fair. You do more videos than I do. So that was episode 18 was Sky
Wow.
Destroyer, and episode 20 was Beast, way back in October and November of 2023. As anyone who listens to the show knows, I am a big pop quiz guy. So I'm going to give you a pop quiz right now, Nelson.
Okay.
Those two cards.
Yeah.
If you had to guess how you rated those cards out of 10, 5 being true neutral, what do you think you would have given those cards? Or what would you give them today? I guess either one.
Yeah. I think that for Sky Destroyer at the time, it was a fairly good card, but we've gotten just so much more shield support with the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. release and everything. I would say that I would probably have given Sky Destroyer a 7. I'm going to go to an 8 now.
You would give it an 8 now?
I think so.
You actually rated that card a 5 out of 10.
Okay.
You said in a vacuum, and then you said, but 6 out of 10 overall within the puzzle of the shield archetype, which was pretty rudimentary at that point. It was only like basically the Miles stuff that came in his pack.
Yeah.
Okay, and I rated that card a 5 out of 10, and LazyTitan, you rated that card a 6.5 out of 10. Now we're going to repeat this exercise one more time. The Beast ally, he was pretty new at that point. What did you rate the Beast ally, Nelson?
My thoughts around it, because I remember we recorded them fairly close, so I feel like I was in the same mind frame during both of those episodes. I think Beast probably, let's say 6.
You rated Beast an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, okay.
You started with a 9,
okay.
and then you bumped him down. Do you remember why you bumped him down?
I don't.
You said you thought he was an auto-include,
Okay.
and because he felt like so strong and so much of an auto-include, you knocked it down because deck building, you prefer things that aren't auto-includes to
That's
make it a
fair,
little more
yeah.
interesting when you build decks. LazyTitan, you also gave that card an 8 out of 10, and I gave it a 9 out of 10.
You were big on Beast at the time.
I'm still a big Beast fan, actually. I'm a big Beast fan. And so just kind of segueing off of that, there is a community member named Bananers. Shout out to Bananers. I know you're listening. I met you at the con. You're awesome. But you are currently going through every single episode and you are compiling all the ratings of every card we've done. This was you self-directed. I didn't have anything to do with this, but you and a couple of the community members decided you would do this. So you were listening through. I don't know where you are. I get regular updates on Discord. You're constantly in the chat telling me about the ridiculous things that people are saying, including me. Apparently, I rated the very first card, the very first episode. I didn't remember this, LazyTitan, but you asked me how I would rate the very first card we did, and you said out of 10, and I gave it a B+. So there was a big discussion in the Discord about how that translates to 100 or a 10-point scale. Do you remember what the first card was, LazyTitan?
I think
I
do.
talked about.
I remember the first card we talked about. I don't remember if it was the first episode we officially published.
Yeah. Do you know, Nelson?
I think so.
Yeah, go.
I don't think I
Swinging
did.
web kick?
It was Swinging Web
that's
Kick.
right.
Yes.
That's right.
A good one. Friend of the show, former founding member, Keiko, big Spider-Man fan. But there is another episode which I have talked about in the Discord recently. There was an episode 0 that we recorded as a practice episode. It was never released. It's still in the files, and I may someday release it if the people want it, because I'm the man of the people. And the People's Podcast.
The People's Podcast.
This is the People's Podcast. We're marching on. It's good to catch up with Nelson. It's good to kind of see where we're at. I'm curious how the ratings today go. Card of the day, of course, is Joining Forces, because the meta narrative of that card is that Nelson and I and us, we're all working together and joining forces.
It's an alliance together.
It is an
and you're paying for all of it.
We're all paying for that. My talking at the start here. Let's move on. So one of the things I'm going to start doing, and I talked to the other co-hosts about this, is we are going to start doing more decks. A lot of people ask me about decks. They said they like when we did deck building challenges at the very beginning. They like the All Hands on Decks series that I do, which is kind of a spin-off that is all about decks on Marvel CDB. So one of the things we're going to start doing from now on is I will create and test and publish a deck around the card of each episode, and I'll publish it and talk about it on the episode. And every guest that comes on will, of course, also make a deck, and then we'll talk about those because decks is just like a fun thing to talk about. So I asked Nelson to put a deck together around joining forces, and I will also have one around joining forces. All right, so, ooh, interesting. I already see what hero it is. I like that. Here we are. Here is the deck. Nelson, why don't you kind of talk us through this, and let us know what your deck is.
Absolutely. So when we built the deck around Joining Forces is going to be a card that's just better in multiplayer. But I wanted to build a deck that could function in true solo. But the way that I built it, it's 44 cards. There's 4 easy cuts to make it if you are going to go with like a Guardian pairing or someone who's running a lot of the Guardians. Because like the Groots, the Rockets, and probably, I'm sorry, but the Vision could get cut out of this deck to bring it down. I know, right? Which also I just realized.
Come on this podcast. Yeah. And you disrespect us like this.
Well, okay, I did just realize that Joining Forces came to us in the Vision Hero Pack, which I thought was also pretty fun. But so we can do that, but this deck can function at true solo. So Joining Forces, 4-cost card, put a Guardian and a Avenger ally into play. Now, that can get kind of tricky because, one, you have to pay for a 4-cost card, and you have to still have those allies in your hand to then put into play. So there's a lot of like weird things that have to go right in order to make it work. But I think Scarlet Witch can kind of cheat that in a couple of ways. I think the first one, and the one that kind of really brought me to her, was the fact that she's mystic and she has access to spiritual meditation. So draw 2 cards, discard 2 cards, or discard a card from your hand. It's card net 0, but it's card fixing.
Mm-hmm.
And so like if we don't have a Guardian ally in our hand, we can go fish for one if we want to find that. Also, her alter ego side allows us to kind of do the same thing. The superpower siblings ability on the alter ego side, she's able to kind of, draw 2 cards, discard 2 cards, or if Quicksilver, which is a Avenger, I think actually, yeah, he is.
Yeah, he is.
I was like, I built the deck around that fact. You can get him into play using Joining Forces, and now you're actually +1 card with those superpower siblings. The other thing that she has the ability to do is chaos magic. And so chaos magic means that you don't have to like deplete your entire hand in order to play Joining Forces. You can discard 4 cards off the top of the encounter deck to pay for Joining Forces, and you still have the cards in your hand, so you can kind of fix it a little bit. And so that's kind of the idea around the deck. Plus with like, I really wanted to get Gamora into a Scarlet Witch deck. And since you can get around the play restrictions, Gamora you can only play if you are a Guardian. However, Joining Forces puts it into play, so you get around that restriction. Now Gamora, whenever she attacks or thwarts, you get to go find an event. That's your Hex Bolts. And everyone knows that it's really fun to play all of the Hex Bolts. And so that was kind of the idea around that, or to find Chaos Magic to hit your Joining Forces or to hit Joining Forces again. Our Avenger allies in here are Panther, Giant Man, Kalu, and Vision, and Quicksilver. Panther grabs Joining Forces and holds it. So that's another little trick so that you don't have to have Joining Forces in your hand. You can use your hand as resources to pay for Joining Forces that is tucked under Black Panther, so that like it's just a little bit easier to fix that resource problem that you would have in true solo. Giant Man is really expensive and hits really hard, and he's in there. Kalu can go grab one of your events. That could be a Chaos Magic or a Joining Forces to kind of like help fix that. Or a Hex Bolt, because Hex Bolts are fun, or Chaos Magic. And then Make the Call is also in there, mainly for Gamora, because Gamora helps fix finding the cards, ideally, along with your spiritual meditation. So the idea around the deck, draw a lot of cards. I think like it's going to function better in multiplayer. I think most of these alliance cards will, but like I think we've got it in here so that like it can work. The other, oh yeah, I forgot about Regroup. That was the last second ad. So Regroup is the support. I may drop that to 2 copies, where after a ally gets defeated by a enemy attack, you can pull that ally back to your hand. And so that's another way that you can get your Guardian or Avenger. So after you've drawn up to your hand size, if you're missing a Guardian or if you're missing an Avenger, chump with the other one so that you have that other piece in your hand.
Yeah, that's I like this deck. I think it's interesting to see, listeners, viewers, we did not talk to each other beforehand. I didn't know what hero he was going to choose. I didn't know how he was going to build the deck. The only thing I know is it's joining forces. This definitely is a route I didn't consider. I didn't consider Scarlet Witch, but I think the way you explained it makes sense. Did you play this deck? Or is
I
this
have not
just
played this deck.
a theory craft? Okay.
About an hour before the podcast, I put this together because it was going to be Jubilee, and it didn't work. I could not get it to work, so I audibled right here at the last second.
That's fine. I appreciate the honesty. I think it's good. I will stop sharing this. I will share mine. I went a slightly different direction, so let's see. All right. I did a Captain Marvel deck, and, I also started with a different hero. I wanted to do it. So one of the things I wanted to do was build it around a hero that I don't play very much. And I first started with Black Panther, the OG, because I thought, he can afford it, whatever. But then it didn't really work. So I built this in Captain Marvel. I have played this a number of times now, so this is viable. I've only played it multiplayer, so I don't know how it works in solo, but I included some of the Guardian allies because it does work in solo, I think. I'll just read the deck list and then we'll talk about it. So it's Captain Marvel. It's 45 cards, so if that makes you cringe, you can stop listening now. That's not a 40-card deck. It includes, for allies, Black Panther, Captain America, Gamora, Groot, Rocket Raccoon, Vision, and Yondu. The events, I have 3 copies of Joining Forces and 1 copy of Make the Call. I have 1 player side scheme, Call for Backup. For resources, I have the 3 basic doubles, and I have 3 copies of Organizational Support. I have Avengers Mansion, Gemma Simmons, Leadership Training, Leo Fitz, Med Lab, Quinn Carrier, 3 copies of Quinjet, 1 copy of Triskelion, and then 1 Clarity of Purpose and 1 Rapid Response. So this deck is built pretty heavily around Black Panther because with Joining Forces, there's 2 main problems, right? You have to have Joining Forces in your hand, and you have to have 2 allies. If you're playing a multiplayer, you only have to have 1, but you still have to make sure the allies are in play at the right time. So I have a couple ways to try to negate that a little bit. Black Panther's a big one because Black Panther's going to grab Joining Forces and hold it. So I have 1 copy of Make the Call to go get Black Panther if you don't have him. Once he's in play, I have Rapid Response to help keep him there. Because he can leave and come back in and grab Joining Forces. Call for Backup will also go get Black Panther and put him into play. And his play restriction is only when he comes into play. You don't have to play him from hand, so any way you get him there is fine. And then I went with Captain Marvel because she just has a lot of money. And Joining Forces is really expensive. So in some of the multiplayer games I played, I was playing with players who did not play super rich heroes. And there was times I played Joining Forces and I didn't have any allies. So one game I played with Nebula, and she just had a copy of Drax in her hand, and I had no other allies in my hand. I just paid 4 to put Drax into play. So one of the great things I love about this is it's a way to pass resources around the table. It's a super inefficient play, like a computer would tell you to not do that. But if I have tons of money and that player doesn't, I can get an ally into play across the table. So I thought that was really fun. A Med Lab is another way to get Black Panther into play and keep him. So the idea is once he's there, you keep him in. Gemma Simmons and Leo Fitz are basically just batteries for organizational support.
Nice.
Because you have the shield support. So if you flip down to enjoy all of our card draw, I can play organizational support and get triple resources or quadruple resources, off of Gemma, Leo, and Triskelion to pay for some of these allies if I don't want to get them in with Joining Forces. And then when I flip up, I have things like Quinjet to exhaust to make it a quadruple support. So organizational support should always be hitting for 3 or 4 no matter what form you're in. And that was another. So there's a lot of supports in there, but that's the whole point. And you go through your cards so fast with her. Clarity of Purpose and Avengers Mansion draw you 2 extra cards every turn. So the deck size didn't seem to be a problem for me. But yeah, I quite enjoyed this. I had a good time. I have not played Captain Marvel in a while, but yeah, it was a good time. There's some similarities in these decks, so I thought was cool.
Yeah. It's really fun. I like Captain Marvel for this. I love the triple resources. Those are really good. Honestly, I wonder if Beast could have been in there.
He was in the early draft. The problem I had with Beast,
expensive.
And the reason he got cut is, and you would play him and pull a resource back, but I didn't have enough. Either I spent the allies that were in my hand to get Beast, or I spent the Joining Forces. I couldn't ever get it where that triple or quadruple resource was worth much. You just end up holding it, and I thought, it's already 45 cards. So he got cut.
Yeah.
But he was one I thought about.
That's fun. I also started with Black Panther, but I stopped with Black Panther because I wanted to run the ally. And it looks like we both kind of did the same thing, which is really fun.
And that my first thought, the obvious one for me is Star-Lord. Like, he makes everyone a guardian. That doesn't quite work with joining forces, but he does hit the restriction of all the guardians. The problem with some of these is that I can't actually play those guardians in my hand, right? Like, I can't actually play Gamora. So I either have to cheat Gamora in, or I just like spend it until I'm ready for joining forces or whatever. But yeah, so Star-Lord's great. He has money to pay for things. But it was really cool to just play joining forces for other people to put allies into play and not get the benefit myself. This is super fun. I really enjoyed it. I will publish this, and I'll put a link to Nelson's deck down below as well. So please check it out. And I would love people who are listening and are watching this, build your own decks, share links with me, winninghandpodcast@gmail.com, or hit me up on Discord. I'm Boomguy. He's Nelson. I'd love to see your deck list, things you come up with for joining forces that I didn't consider. Critique mine if you want to, but just it's about fun. So if you play it, awesome. If you play Nelson's, awesome. If you make your own, I'd be happy to play yours. All right. LazyTitan, what did you think about the decks we had today?
I thought they were interesting. I think Nelson went in a more intricate route. I think your deck was fairly classic of expensive card. It's an event. Play Black Panther, hold it, get lots of money, it's a tried and true formula. It works. It's good. Chaos Magic is another one of those cards I forget about sometimes. But
it's so good.
Which is good.
One copy.
And then obviously being a wizard is really strong. I did notice Blood Gem in there. Are you using that, or is that just for thinning the deck out?
Blood Gem is mainly in there for that last resource, because if you are playing Joining Forces, that's 5, plus you have to have 2 cards, 2 allies left, so that's 7 resources. So it's just another resource in there. It's also an early resource generator, so typically I'm only using it towards the early part of the game, and let it sit around for like a caught off guard type situation once I like get later into the game. But like if I see it in my opening hand, it's a really quick accelerator, and I'll trade 2 damage at the beginning of the game for a resource.
Start of the game for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listeners, viewers, I would love to hear your thoughts. I thought that was a fun little segment. So thank you for indulging Nelson and I as we talked through our decks. Nelson, we had the Con of Heroes not that long ago. It was a couple weeks ago now. And you were at the con. What were your thoughts?
The con was amazing this year. The con has been amazing every single year, but it was very, very fun this year. I thought both from the event standpoint, the just kind of the quality of life improvements that was implemented by the team, just like with the food trucks being there, having our own rooms at the hotel after hours, just all of that just made for just such a smooth experience. Probably my favorite part were like, I forgot who it was. Someone handed out like these like really cool like promo packs right at the beginning of the con, and then like
sounds interesting.
Around. Yeah, it was really cool.
I don't think I got one.
Yeah, you should check them out. They're pretty cool.
Yeah,
but like honestly, that was just like a really fun side activity that went on the entire weekend. Was trying to see if you could find or like look at them all, trade for the ones that you are missing and the ones that you wanted. It was just really cool. Plus, they just look absolutely stellar. But yeah, I just thought it's just such a nice like community there. Everyone is there to just enjoy the game, and I love that weekend so much.
Do you have a favorite deck of yours that you brought this year that you played?
Ooh.
Try to remember back now.
Yeah. It was just funny because Con of Heroes is probably the decks that I bring to Con of Heroes are probably the only times I play a deck that many times.
I feel that.
I really liked my Storm deck this year. I like Storm in 4 players, being able to kind of affect the entire table. And it was technically leadership because it had 1 leadership blue card in there.
Mm-hmm.
Did I play the Storm deck with you?
Yeah, that was that was the only game we played together. I think you played Storm.
Okay. Yeah, so I really enjoyed the Storm deck. We played against Mr. Negative, which was one of the custom scenarios. That was fun. That was a lot of fun. I just brought a Aggression Thor, which is big brawler Thor, and I just have fun with Thor. It's fun to draw all the cards.
I'm going to look up the exact game we played because I wrote in my notebook every single game. So I'm going to look and see. Oh, here's Nelson. You played Storm Leadership.
I think I was playing Nick.
You were playing Shadowcat.
Played Shadowcat.
Oh, right. I played Shadowcat. That was because you were going to do damage. So it was one of the few games I was like, I can allow myself this dip into protection.
I played Vision Protection. and Andy N played Silk Leadership. We played against Mr. Negative on Expert. That was game number 24 of my weekend.
Woo.
That was on Saturday.
It wasn't Saturday because I got to 40 on the last day at the
wild.
airport. It
At
was
the airport?
wild. Yeah, we played the last game at the airport. That was my 40th game.
That's awesome.
It was a lot. Anyway, super fun. Yeah, I had a great time at the con. If you are listening to this and you've never heard about the con before or you're curious about the con, please check it out. You should definitely go. I don't want to tease. I don't want to say too much, but we will not be at the same location next year.
Yeah.
So for all those who don't like the location,
If you don't like the location, it will be at a different place next year. And I think that's 95% set where we're going to be. But I'm not going to say that. It's not for me to share. But I'm pretty sure that is done officially now.
It
We have a
is
new place.
kind of exciting that it got to the point where we outgrew the location.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah.
was full. It was a very, very full event, which was exciting. It was also a little tight,
Yeah.
but it's cool that it's just like, I remember being there when it was half the size, and it's
Yeah,
just like,
year
it's cool
one.
to see it grown. Yeah,
Yeah. You were the first year too, right?
I was. Yeah.
Yeah. It was wild. Like I knew in my head, I knew the ticket numbers and I knew that we had sold up to the fire limit, fire code. But still day one walking in, and it was like actually every table was full. Like immediately people spilled out into the extra area because the tables were all full. They were at the standing tables. There were people. It was crazy.
literally, if we put more people in that room, it's an OSHA violation.
Yeah, we were up to fire code. It was great. I had a good time. All right, we have a listener email. I'm going to read that quick, and then we'll go on to the card of the day, which is, of course, joining forces. You know that by now if you're watching or listening. Why
If
am
you
I
don't,
repeating it?
Now you do.
And if you don't know, well, we'll get there in a second. I'm going to ask LazyTitan for some advice in just a second, but first we're going to read this email. This is from Adam. He says, "Hey there. I just found your podcasts recently and have been loving it so far and have been making my way through all the old episodes as well. The deck building episodes have been my favorite as I then grab all those decks and play with them later. However, I'm constantly being told how easy and how quick it is to leave a 5-star review. But as an Overcast user, there isn't a rating system available. If I go to Spotify, they want me to listen to the episodes on their platform first before I can even rate the show. I don't know what to do. The level of effort here is astronomical. I personally love the show and rate it 5 stars, but how do I let the world know? It's issues like these that drive me to the bottle. So I figured I'd just email and say, nice job, thumbs up emoji. I wasn't aware of the con until you started discussing it, and it sounds like a blast. I may need to try to go next year. I've only played by myself and two-handed, so it would be interesting to play with other people. Adam." Well, Adam, thank you for listening, and thank you for sending the show an email. It's great to hear from people. Yes, the con's amazing. Yes, you should come if you can afford it, and it is fiscally responsible, but it's a great time. LazyTitan, before we get into the Overcast side of things, how easy is it to leave a 5-star review?
It's just so easy. It's even easier than, I can't even think of an example. It's just so easy. It's the
so
easiest
easy.
thing you could do. I have done it myself.
too
I
easy.
have friends who've done it. I have people I don't know who I've convinced to do it in 30 seconds.
It's too easy.
And now I'm not gonna. I can't personally speak for Overcast,
Mhm.
having never used it
Mhm.
and actually never having heard of that until just now.
It's an
But
app.
I'm assuming context has led me to believe that it's a podcast listening app.
It is.
But I will say, if you need to listen to the episodes, and I'm not condoning this by any means. I think you should listen to every episode in its completion.
Mhm.
But if you just tap on the episode, scroll the bar all the way to the end, as far as Spotify knows, you've listened to that entire episode,
Yeah, that's
and
a
then
fair
can
point.
leave a 5-star review.
Yeah.
That maybe is underhanded. That's maybe not something we
Duplicitous.
condone on this podcast, but things gotta happen, you know?
We're the People's Podcast.
Look,
Look,
people's podcast. I would.
if you're an Overcast user, and I used to be an Overcast user myself, and I did a little bit of Google research before this episode because I wanted to be sure, there is actually no way to rate and review anything on Overcast.
It can't
However,
be done.
You can go to Spotify or you can go to Apple Podcasts and you can leave a 5-star review. It only takes a few seconds. If there is a podcast out there that talks about Marvel Champions that has more written reviews and more ratings with 5 stars on it than us, it hasn't been started yet because we are the #1 Marvel Champions podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Boom. Right in your face, Nelson. Just
take
kidding.
that.
I'm
Oh,
just
wait.
kidding.
Oh, wait. Dang.
No, you can leave a rating. You can also follow us on YouTube, subscribe, link, like, all that stuff, whatever. And if nothing else, I appreciate the email. That was awesome. The 5-star thing at this point is a bit of a gag, but, who are we to ruin a good bit?
True.
We love a
And,
good-
Like I I was not trusting LazyTitan on how easy it was, so I went and checked, and I did a 5-star review during his description. So it's actually really easy. He
Love
was
it.
It's
not
so
lying
easy.
to us,
See?
yeah.
Love it.
This is why you're on the podcast, Nelson.
We do have
This is why you get a spot.
We have one disgruntled person who left very early on a 2-star review, which is fine. If you think it's a 2-star podcast, God bless you. I hope you find a podcast you like better.
That's my alt account. So
But they did leave a 2-star review, which for a long time meant we were never going to get to a 5-star overall rating because we were 4.9 forever, because every other review is 5 stars. But if we finally crossed the threshold, there is now enough total reviews that is mathematically insignificant, and we are 5 stars overall on Apple Podcasts. I'm going to slap myself on the back until I'm satisfied, which is never. All right. Enough of that. Boomguy is making a fool of himself. Let's move on to the card of the day. The card of the day is, of course, Joining Forces. I am going to share this card. And Nelson, as the guest, would you mind, please, just reading it for us and for our listeners and viewers? And then we'll talk about it.
Absolutely. Joining Forces is a 4-cost event. It has the Alliance keyword, which means that the players can pay the card's cost as a group. Such a cool mechanic. And it's a hero action. As a group, the players can put a total of 1 Avenger ally and 1 Guardian ally into play from their hands.
Okay. This is an expensive event. So, as Nelson already beat me to it earlier, my little factoid. Thanks a lot, Nelson. What hero pack did this come in?
I don't know. It could be. Would you like to tell everyone?
What's that little symbol at the bottom? If only there had been a game at the Con of Heroes where we could have figured out what all these symbols are. I clearly don't know that one. LazyTitan, what is it?
That's the Vision Hero Pack. I got that one right at the con. Among the people on this podcast, I know for sure that one of us got it right.
One of us got it right.
For sure. Could have been more.
It was not me. I will say that right now. I got that wrong. If you know, you know. If you're at the Con of Heroes, it was a great time. But yeah, so this is an Alliance card from the Vision pack. So it was one of the cards in the back of the pack because he came as a protection pre-con. Okay, quick. I mean, anybody who listens to the podcast now knows. Quick pop quiz, Nelson. Do you know how many Alliance cards are in the game?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'm going to say as like a single copy, like I'm not counting Joining Forces 3 times.
Correct. Unique cards.
8, 10.
There are 12.
Okay.
Do you know which aspect has the most?
Aggression?
No.
Justice.
Justice. Justice has 3 of them. Gunboat Diplomacy, Problem Solvers, and Team Investigation. Do you know which aspect has the fewest? Basic doesn't count. Basic has 1, but doesn't sound an aspect. Which aspect has the fewest?
Is it leadership?
It's Pool.
Oh. Yeah, that's
Okay.
right.
Pool only has 1, but every single aspect has 1.
I would argue that if Basic doesn't count, Pool doesn't count.
Basic doesn't count per the rules, so...
Well,
where's
Pool
my
doesn't
eject
count
button?
because I hate it.
Nope. I need one of those buttons that makes funny noises so I can have the people booing you.
An
as
air
you're
horn
talking.
button?
Nah, the booing I was going to go for.
Boo
No,
this
air
man.
horns another time. Boo this man. Okay, let's talk about the art on this card. LazyTitan, why don't you tell me, if you're not watching this on YouTube, if you're only listening to this, what are we looking at here?
We are looking at a team up of Avengers and Guardians kind of all jumping into action towards the frame of the camera, towards us, it would seem. Except for Gamora, who's maybe going to stab who that is in the front.
Star-Lord.
Is that Booster Gold? Okay, Star-Lord.
It does look like Booster Gold. Deep cut.
Deep cut for those Booster Gold fans out there. But Gamora is sword up, maybe stabbing Star-Lord. Drax is going right for the camera. He's even looking straight into the frame. He's going for it. Mm-hmm. And then we also see Cap, Iron Man, and Hulk. So 3 Avengers, 3 Guardians. And kind of looks like they're just in space. So I don't know what Cap is standing on.
Yeah, maybe
he's
they're,
just
like,
kind of like posed in space.
Falling in style? I don't know.
I don't know what's happening, but they're in space and they're going to help.
So on first glance, I will say Gamora does look like she's down stabbing, but if you look at the way her hands are placed, I think she's like swinging it.
Okay.
It's awkward, but I think her hands indicate she's like swinging it around.
Yeah, she's
her
kind
head.
of swinging it around.
Cut Iron Man's head off.
Yeah, she's going to chop Iron Man and then get Star-Lord on the backswing. I see.
Yeah. She is wearing quite an outfit.
Not a classic Gamora fit.
Not a classic. Neither is Star-Lord. He does have much more of the Booster Gold. Shout out to Skeets, who's not represented here, but if you know, you know.
If you know, you know.
Okay, so I think that pretty much sums it up. There's like a glow behind them. Maybe they're in the atmosphere, right? They're on a planet somewhere, and you can just see space behind them, or maybe they're in space.
It's unclear.
I don't know.
Could also
It's unclear.
We don't know. It's unclear.
What do you guys think about this art?
It does feel like the Guardians are really leading the charge here. Like, they're the ones taking the first hit.
It looks like the Guardians got together for a team photo and somebody photoshopped the Avengers in.
Fair. Especially Hulk.
So, yeah, Hulk, and I think Cap also looks out of place. He doesn't look shaded right. He just is there.
I mean, also, shout out, there's 3 people with green skin. Well, thank you to Marvel for representation.
We appreciate that.
It's cool to see 3 different shades of green, too. I love it.
3 different shades of green and 3 white people. Thank you, Marvel, for your
I don't
representation.
know what Iron Man is. You think he's white, but he's just a guy in a metal suit.
I mean, has there ever been another Iron Man? I think Iron Man is one of the
millions of Iron Mans, right?
Yeah, but they're not called Iron Man, right? I feel like a lot of other heroes have like iterative, like Sam Wilson, Captain America.
Multiverse.
Yes, multiverse. But I think it's always just Tony Stark. There's like Ironheart and Rhodey and Iron Patriot and all the other Iron Man suit wearing people.
Yeah, I don't know. There's probably 3 of it, but you're right. Okay. I think this is like functional. It doesn't blow my mind. It gets the point across of the Guardians and the Avengers, but it's not like amazing. What do you guys think?
I think LazyTitan hit the nail on the head, and I love the description of it. Looks like the Avengers were just photoshopped into this thing. I can't get that out of my head now. Like looking at it, especially like the framing is a little weird. I don't love Hulk down here. Do we know if this one is from a comic or is this a commissioned work?
That's a great question, Nelson, and I'm glad you asked. It is actually from a comic panel. It is from Avengers Assemble, Volume 2, Number 6. It is the cover, and that was put out in 2012. So interesting that it is actually an Avengers Assemble comic. And
For
yet
your knowledge,
they seem
though,
like they're in the background.
Nelson, if at the bottom it says a name, it's a commissioned work. Otherwise, it's a comic panel.
Okay, well that's fun.
The more
that's
you
good to
know.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is... All right, well, let's kind of talk about the theme. I think we've talked about the art. It's fine. I don't love it. I don't hate it.
It's okay.
It's like kind of in the middle. But the theme of this, how does all the aspects of the card, from action to traits, keywords, title, cost, everything, how does it all work together to kind of give us the theme here? Nelson, you start.
Yeah, sure.
You're the guest.
I think it is one of the more thematic alliance cards, just like from like a standpoint of like, okay, like we are joining forces. We're going to be putting allies from these 2 teams into play from anybody's hands at the table. And like from that sense, it feels very thematic, right? Because I love like the idea of building a Avenger tribal deck and then a Guardian tribal deck, not necessarily trying to do this in one deck, but like teaming those decks up, paying half the cost for this card because like one person can pay 2, the other person can pay 2, and then putting some of these big allies onto the table. It just feels like a huge swing, and like joining forces just feels like that is what it's supposed to do. So I think from like a theming standpoint, from an alliance, like keyword, joining forces, like everything kind of feels symbiotic here and feels like it makes sense.
Yeah. LazyTitan, what do you think? Anything to add on that?
I think I generally agree. I think it feels a lot more like one of the... There's kind of 2 aspects, maybe not the best word, but 2 kinds of leadership cards, where there's leadership cards that are clearly designed to be for everyone and benefit all the players, and then there's some of the earlier ones which are just kind of say ally on them and do a thing. This is actually both, but I like the alliance mechanic with a static cost. I think is very good. I think it helps to balance it. We talked about, I forget the name of it now, but the 2 per player cost, team investigation, and how the scaling of it just makes it not improve in any player count. It's always the same. But this scales better, right? The more players you have, the easier it is to pull off. Someone has always got spare resources in a 4-player game. And then there's also probably a helicarrier. You can probably play this relatively easily. And like Nelson said, if you have a Avengers themed deck and a Guardian themed deck, if you're playing, I don't know, Cap and Star-Lord, then you each pay 2 for your Nova Prime and your Captain Marvel, and then you just get a 3-cost discount on both your allies, which is pretty good.
Yeah, I think the theme here works. Like the alliance keyword evokes an idea of what that keyword should be, and I think it totally works. I think the title, joining forces, right? The alliance and what it does as an action, all that comes together. Even the fact that it's leadership kind of makes me feel all this stuff goes together. I sound like a broken record. Every time I see a card that does not have flavor text, I'm a little disappointed. I'm a flavor text fan. It would have been cool to have some good flavor text here, right? Like it would have something. You could have had something, some kind of quote here.
For sure.
I don't know. I'm a little disappointed there. But overall, I feel like the theme works and all the components of the card, you know, the image, the keyword, the title, all the stuff works together. And I think it evokes a good theme. So definitely good points there. How strong is this card? That is the big question here. This is where I expect us to really dig into it. LazyTitan, why don't you start this time? How strong is Joining Forces?
I think Joining Forces is as strong as your player count, really. I think it is in solo. I don't see yourself ever really doing this. You could pay 4 for 2 5 costs in perfect world, and then you get a good discount just like everybody else does. But that's a lot of setup because you got to have 4 resources to pay for this. Got to have this card in your hand, and then you got to have 2 allies that you can play, which means you have to have 4 resources with most heroes, your other 2 cards, which is doable, but a little more of a setup. You also have to have the Avengers and the Guardian thing. But then in 2-player, obviously you can build those duo decks, those combo decks. In 3-player, you can build your own deck, but someone's more likely to be able to have it. And then in 4-player, like I said earlier, you're always going to be able to pay for this. Somebody's going to be able to have enough resources to give you a spare one. You're going to Helicarrier from player 1, and you'll get a random resource from player 2, and somebody has a double, and then it's paid for. And then you can also give it out to people. So you can let other people, you have a higher chance of hitting the allies that you're looking for, and also a higher chance of hitting the keywords of allies you're looking for. Avengers and Guardians are pretty broad, and there's a lot of allies for them. So even if somebody just gets to play like a Gamora on their side, and then you get to have your whatever, it works out.
I mean, you can almost go the other route too, right? Like I had this 6-cost Captain America in my deck. And in that sense, if he's in my hand, I can just ask if anyone has a Guardian. If not, it's still cheaper than playing Captain America.
Yes.
If you play Captain Marvel, the 5-cost ally, it's still cheaper than just playing her or Beta Ray Bill or anything, right? I mean,
Yes.
Beta Ray Bill's not an Avenger and a Guardian, but you get my point. If you just
I
have
think he's a
really
Guardian.
expensive allies, it's just a reduction. No, he's just Asgard. He would be in my deck if he was a Guardian because
I love Beta
am
Ray
a
Bill.
Beta Ray Bill stan.
I'm a big Beta Ray Bill guy.
Same. Yeah, so you can go that direction, and then it's just like, hey, I'm playing Captain America. If anyone has a Guardian, help yourself. That's cool. I really like that you can share it. But Nelson, thoughts on power of this card?
Yeah, I think in True Solo, it's a fairly weak card. It's really hard to pull off. I do like what you were saying, and I never really kind of thought about that. The fact that, yeah, you can actually just use this card to effectively be a cheaper way to play some of those higher cost allies. That's a really cool way. And then also, like, on the flip side of that is you can use this card to effectively just pay 1 more to get Gamora into play if you are not a Guardian. So you can get around some play restrictions. That being said, it is so hard to set up and trigger effectively in True Solo. I think at 2 players, if you built 2 decks that are kind of around this alliance concept with, 1 deck running the Avengers, 1 deck running the Guardians, it gets a little bit more playable. And then all the way up to 4, where as long as you have a Guardian and an Avenger player at the table, you're looking at a pretty decent card. So I do like the fact that we have like this scaling of power based on player count.
Yeah, I mean, I think in a perfect world, right, and I've tried this, you have different players having the Guardians and different players having the Avengers, and then you can say, play Joining Forces to put them down. And then maybe the other player has as 1, and you slap it down and you exhaust them both to deal X damage, and then someone plays Cosmic Alliance to ready them both. Like, that would be a crazy turn, but that's like threading a needle after a needle after a needle, and it doesn't quite work. I often find these alliance cards a little underwhelming, and I think that is generally the consensus of a lot of the community. Now, I will say, as always, I think True Solo play is overrepresented in the online community and in the spaces that I hang out, and I think it ends up looking like most people play that way when I actually don't think that's true. I think the majority of the game is played multiplayer, but they're just not the people who are hanging on Discord and like waiting on every article that Fantasy Flight drops, which, guilty. But yeah, I mean, I think it's difficult to pull off. That's just the reality of it. There was a point when I was building decks and I thought maybe I had figured out something very clever by using MedLab to stash an ally and then, playing Joining Forces because it's as if it was in my hand, but that's an alter ego response. So I couldn't quite get it to. I was trying to find ways to make it work, but it's just not super consistent. And the best way I could find it was Black Panther, to just hold the event and hope you draw, which is like, not ideal, but it's something. And leadership training helped me to kind of recycle it back in. I don't know. I think it can be really strong. When it hits, it feels really good. It's like Maria's, what's this? This is the Cersei, the 6 cost. Yeah. That's easier to set up because you can just have it sitting there and you just put an ally in. I think this is really strong when it hits, and you can get crazy value because for 4, right, you can get Captain America and Gamora, or you can get Groot and Black Panther. Like, you can get some crazy strong allies in at once, and that's a huge tempo play for the players. But yeah, it's tough to set up.
The one thing that I want to talk about with the math here is that it's actually efficient if you get two cost allies into play. You're actually still paying less for that because of like the fact that the effective resources, and you have to put those cards into play as well. And so like we're talking about like best case scenario, 5 cost allies, 6 cost allies. That's awesome. But like you don't necessarily have to put super expensive allies into play with this card for it to be like an acceleration of tempo. You can
100%.
get like less expensive cards. You put a 2 and a 3, you're still like getting an acceleration. You're getting more value out of your resources than what you normally would. But it's always kind of fun to try and set up those big cost allies.
Because you want to maximize, right? Like, we're gamers and we're trying to min-max this thing. And it's like, well, yeah, I could put like Throg and I don't know, some 3 cost Avenger, White Tiger or something. That's a bad example. Black Knight. I could do Black Knight and Throg, but like that doesn't feel as good as like Captain America and Drax, right? Like, you're like, oh man, huge, slapping it down. Early drafts of this deck, I had some of the Guardians that don't require being a Guardian, so I put in like Star-Lord and Cosmo and Martin X, but they're like just not great. Like, I get Martin X out and it's like, he's just like a 1/1. I don't know. You can go super big, but I think you're right. I think it's important to point out that like if you just play 2 cost allies, you are actually paying less than you would otherwise. Or, if you play a 3 cost and 2 cost, like that's still good value. And there's times when you're playing technically inefficient value, but it might still be good for the board to get something out. And so that's why I was trying to go heavy with resources and spread them around the table with my deck.
Yeah, one of the decks that I was playing around with was a Spider-Woman deck.
Ooh.
Because she can bring multiple aspects, and I think that there are so many like really good Avenger and Guardian allies that are outside of leadership. And if you're looking at a true solo, you're kind of locked to basic and leadership. And I think I would say Gamora is probably the best Guardian ally that there is in the game, that you can deck build with at least. She just seems strong, but
she's so good.
She's really good. But like if you are bringing along a Spider-Woman and you can, play Hercules or something like a 6 cost ally from aggression or something like that, there opens up like other combos. Also, you can throw in Captain Marvel, who's just an incredible ally.
Is the Sentry an Avenger?
He is an Avenger. Fortunately, you can't get around his restriction when you put him into play.
He's still really good.
However, I will say, interesting fact about Sentry is his flavor text says after he enters play under your control, deal yourself a face on a counter card. So if you make the calling, you can't still. I was trying to think of a way to get him into play not under your control. Now there's no way to do that. I don't know why it says that in this thing. Never mind. Scratch that. Forget it, audience. We're learning in real time together.
Yeah. And then like expanding that Spider-Woman theory out to multiple players, you will have just a wider card pool of allies to choose from with the other aspects, because a lot of the times you're not running like 4 leadership decks at a table unless you're trying to like do something fun. So like if you have access to all the red Avengers, the green Avengers, the yellow Avengers, as well as the Guardians in those aspects. And so like that's another reason why I think it's just so much better in multiplayer.
I think all these alliance cards are just better in multiplayer. And I mean, just the costs, right? You can spread it around because then you don't have to have the full 4. If someone has like 3, and this is a lot of times in multiplayer, right? Someone is 1 resource short of something awesome, and it's like, oh, can I have a helicarrier or something? And so it might just be like, oh, I can spend 3 on this, but like, can someone help me out and just like toss in a resource and we can get these 2 allies out? So it's definitely a lot stronger in multiplayer. And I think just it's one of those cards. A lot of these alliance cards are just like, you have to kind of do it in deck building, right? You have to kind of coordinate with the other people when you're building decks, like, hey, I'm going to be an alliance card. Like, can you build something with these, or can you build something with that? And then I think it can work really well, but it is difficult to pull off. I went for the heavy ally strategy with my deck. So that's one reason I also put Quinjet in, because Quinjet can, help you as a battery for organizational support. But late game, you can just drop a big expensive ally, you just pitch Quinjet and then drop Captain America or drop Yondu or whatever. Not Yondu, Vision. But yeah, it's interesting to try to get these to work. I think these are a really fun deck building puzzle. I built a deck around Stand Together. It's not Joining Forces, but for the con, and played it. It's just tricky, man. That's another hard one to pull off.
And I like what you called it there, the puzzle, right? Because that's really kind of what makes me excited about deck building a lot of the times, is trying to figure out ways to make underutilized cards work. And like, that's why I like, yeah, it's fun.
Do you have a favorite alliance card? It doesn't have to be this one, Nelson. Do you have a favorite?
Is Team Strike an alliance?
It is not.
Yeah, then not that one. I don't know if I do.
Gunboat was all the rage a while ago.
Gunboat is really good. Gunboat is very, very strong. It may be this one, honestly. Like, I think I like the idea of building around this and trying to figure out how to make it work. I really like the ideas, with Black Panther. Like, because if you use Joining Forces to put Black Panther into play, he can grab the Joining Forces you just played. And so, like, you get that combo there. Like, I like finding those little kind of, like, tricks and everything. And so Joining Forces just feels like an epic moment when you do pull it off. And I feel like an alliance card should have that feeling from like a thematic standpoint. It's like, we just did that. And I feel like Joining Forces really does have that feel behind it. And so that's kind of why I would say Joining Forces is probably my favorite.
It kind of has team up vibes. I do want to point out, you said that if you spend Joining Forces to play Black Panther, you can grab that. You can. I dug into the rules, however, you cannot Joining Forces him and then grab that Joining Forces. So you can't play Joining Forces to put him into play and then grab that Joining Forces, but you can spend it to play him normally and then grab that joining, because
discarding the resources happens first.
Discarding the resource, you're spending it, and you're playing the event. It's not resolving until he's already, I don't know. I read through the rules. It's a whole thing.
Yeah, because when you play the event, he comes in at halfway through the resolution of the event and doesn't see it in the discard pile before it appears. Whereas if you spend it, you're spending it before playing the card, so he already sees it in the discard pile when he enters.
See,
so,
you get it. Get it,
I
listeners?
misunderstood that. I didn't realize there was a purgatory of events card space.
I dug into it because at first I thought, oh, this is clever because I could play them, and you just have an endless loop of Joining Forces because you could just constantly. No, it doesn't work that way. All right. Let's talk about how fun this card is. This is the last category we usually talk about before we go to final ratings. And I'll start this time. This card's super fun. If you can get it to play, if you can pull it off and get some cool allies in, like, yes, technically, it's just as efficient or more efficient to put 2/2 cost allies in. I totally get that. That's totally valid. You can play Throg and, I don't know, some 2-cost Avenger. But that's not fun, Nelson. What's fun is slapping Captain America and Yondu. And you're like, bam. Look at these bad boys. That's fun. I think when you can get it to pull off, it's really cool. I think it's actually even more fun when they're not both your allies. I really love the aspect of it. It's like, oh, I have, Joining Forces on Black Panther, and I just drew into, I don't know, Goliath. Anybody else got a Guardian? They're like, oh, yeah, I just drew Groot. Let's go. I'm like, all right, let's get these boys out. That's super fun. I love this.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's a just incredibly fun card. The other one that I tried to add, and I think would be a lot of fun, is Captain Marvel. Like, I'm noticing, like, Joining Forces has an energy resource, so you can build a deck around energy resources and just cheat Captain Marvel in. And whenever she enters play, energy resource deals 3, 2 energy resources that are discarded stuns, and so like that just seems like fun. But yeah, it feels like you get like this epic moment of like everyone's coming to the battle, and we're gonna just like drop the gloves and let's go.
Yeah. I love that. I love that idea of using the Captain Marvel ally. I didn't include her in my deck for obvious reasons. But yeah, you could discard itself, and then it's super.
You could do it in Iron Man, who's also quite rich,
and
he cares about lightning resources as well. His 1-cost Repulsor Blast is really good if it discards 5 lightning resources. It's 1 for 9, so it becomes very strong. I've always wanted to do the lightning only Iron Man build. I've thought about it a lot, but yeah, I don't know how much tech there is in leadership.
There's a decent bit.
You have
'cause
at
it's
least the
all
suit, right? You always have the suit.
laser blaster. Like you have a lot of like
Those
different
upgrades.
like upgrades for
Iron Man
allies
is
that do count.
very, very wealthy. He's got Pepper as a resource generator. He also has the tower to get him another resource. He can easily pay for an Avengers mansion. He gets a free card on his alter ego side. So he's got 7 hand sides, both sides, a little bit of card selection. So not a bad.
One thing I thought about this card, I think it would be interesting if they had another version, or if this was different and said, like, as a group, the players put a total of 1 Avenger and 1 Guardian ally into play. What if it was, players who have the Guardian and Avenger identity put an ally into play? That would be kind of the cool way to tweak it. That would make it a little easier to hit, right? Like if you're playing a Guardian and someone else is playing an Avenger, then like slap an ally out there, and we don't care what they are. That could be, maybe that's just broken. I don't know.
Or you just don't have a restriction on the trait and put an ally into play that shares a trait with your hero.
There you go. Now you're talking. Yeah, that'd be cool. And make it a multiplayer card where it's like,
But then it's just an
player.
X-Men card, right? If it just says shares a trait, it's just an X-Men card because everyone's just going to play X-Men with it.
Because then I was going to talk about this. Alliance cards, I think Alliance cards could branch out. So far, they have been focused on team traits, but I kind of like the idea of why can't we have like aerial characters have an Alliance card?
We have flying formation.
That's it. Readies. That's right. It does ready. It readies 3 aerial characters. But like I thought, like what if it's the players are Alliance players, and they can each play an aerial event or something like that.
You could also limit Alliance to traits. I don't know if it's maybe hard to pull off them, but maybe it says like Alliance aerial, which means only aerial like characters, players with an aerial identity or with an Avenger identity. So then you can lock it to Avengers and do something crazy, like something like Avengers Assemble. Say any player with the Avenger trait can play this card.
I mean, one of the weaknesses of these, like, there's been basically 2 runs of Alliance cards. There's a Guardian and Avenger ones, and then there was the X-Men and X-Force. And one of the issues with the Guardian and Avengers ones is like you kind of get to the bottom of Guardian allies fairly quickly, at least of ones you'd want to play. They're all the basic ones, and other than that, like there's a couple that are okay. Yondu's fine, and Venom, the Justice one, is solid, and
Angela
is good.
Angela's a Guardian.
You don't need Angela for.
I'm just saying, Angela's a Guardian.
Angela is a Guardian. I take your point, but overruled because she costs 0. I don't know.
Not wrong.
I just think that is one of the limitations, right? There's only so many allies to go around.
Yeah, I'm looking through just the Guardian allies, and like Throg's really, really good, I think.
Throg's great. And Venom, the Justice Venom is solid. Is that amazing?
Charlie 27 is an interesting one. 4 cost protection, 1/1, 4 tough retaliate. It's like block 2 hits.
Starhawk is really good.
Starhawk is really good.
Wraith is undervalued, I think.
Is Jocasta an Avenger?
Yeah.
No. Oh, she's an Avenger. Yeah. Not a Guardian.
Costa's good.
Jocasta's a good Avenger choice. I mean, there's plenty of good Avengers.
The Guardians you run low on pretty
The Guardians
fast.
you start to run low on.
But also there's a lot of signature Guardian allies, right? You have Nova Prime, you have Nebula and Gamora in their respective opposite decks.
Yeah.
I don't know. Blue Marvel, is he a Guardian? No,
he's an Avenger. But he's good. Okay, so let's transition then to final thoughts, and we will give kind of ratings and overall thoughts on it. I'm going to give you the option, Nelson. Do you want to go first, second, or third?
I'll go first.
All right, Nelson. Final thoughts. Rating on a scale of 1 to 10, 5 being true, neutral, right in the middle. How would you rate this one?
I think it's definitely a B plus. Like,
hey, there you go, bananas.
What a callback!
Chalk up another B plus.
Excellent joke.
Love that.
Okay, so joining forces, I'm gonna rate this one fairly low, just because the majority of my games are in that true solo, and so like just from my bias and how I play the game, it's just not a card that I reach to fairly often, which I think makes for a very fun discussion, not as strong of a card. So I'm going to probably drop this one in at a 4. I think power level brings it down. Fun factor brings it up a little bit, but I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10.
4 out of 10. LazyTitan, why don't you go second?
I'll keep it at an even 5. Like Nelson said, it's not super good. I think, as you mentioned earlier, gamers love to make the best case scenario happen, the efficiency.
Gamers gonna game.
As we mentioned, I think you if you bring this card to something like the con, where you know you're going to be playing a lot of 4-player, or like a meetup or something, I think even if you just play a couple of both allies, you have a lot of allies in your deck, and you have this card, I think the odds of you just getting value out of it are pretty high. Like we said, if you just bring Guardians, if you bring like a Guardians deck with any hero you want to, there's enough Avengers that is a pretty good odds chance that someone's going to have an Avenger ally, and maybe you throw a couple in there of your own, and then you just get a more efficient card out of it. It doesn't have to be a big splashy play. You just slap it down, you pull out, you play your Gamora, you play your Rocket, and then they get their, I don't know, 2-cost Avenger dot ally, whatever it is. You still are up on cards, and if you have a bunch of resources in your deck, like with Captain Marvel or something, you can then just pay for it and just give somebody else a more efficient turn. And it's fine. It doesn't look good, and it feels bad to play a 2-cost and a 3-cost, or like 2 2-costs or a 3, but it is ultimately, unless you're just playing one 4-cost ally, it's always, if you're playing 2 allies, it's always worth it. Unless it's Blade and Angela.
Shout out to Stinger.
But if you spend 4 to play Blade and Angela, you're a hero, and I respect you.
Achievement unlocked.
But it's ultimately, the art is fine. It's nothing to write home about. That guy in the front does not read Star-Lord to me. I don't know.
Major Captain Kirk vibes with his little blaster.
Yes, very much Captain Kirk, very much Booster Gold, and it's fun, but it's a pretty mediocre card, pretty lackluster.
Okay, so I agree with a lot of what you all have said. I think early in this game's life cycle, when this card came out, in Vision was wave 4, so halfway through wave 4, or towards the end of wave 4, the odds if you ran a few Guardians that someone would have Avengers were really high. I think the odds today, if you go to a meetup, are pretty low. If you're running an Avenger, odds are, I would say, very low that you'll run into someone playing Guardians. And if you're playing Guardians, it's maybe a little higher just because by numbers that somebody's running an Avenger, but it's probably going to miss. So it requires some planning, which can be fun. I think the art is fine. We've talked about that. I think the theme on this hits on every level. I think the title and the keyword and the way Alliance works as a mechanic and what it does, I think all that comes together really, really well. I think it's awesome. It feels like leadership. It feels like joining forces. It feels like an alliance. Like, all that's cool. The art makes you feel Guardians and, Avengers vibes. Great all around there. The power is tricky. The power is where this card can struggle, right? Like, it is just strong, but getting it to line up is the tricky part. But that is also what makes it fun. Like Nelson hinted at, right? Like, the puzzle of it is what makes it fun. I'm going to go a little higher on this card. I'm going to call this card a 6. I was tempted to go lower, but the more we talked about it, I think this is a little better for me. I don't play a lot of true solo, and it's difficult with all the mutants out there. You're just going to whiff often unless you plan ahead. But hey, I think that's the beauty of the game. I think the game really comes alive in multiplayer. No shade at anyone who plays solo. I always say there's no wrong way to play
From
the
you.
game, however you want to play. Yes, LazyTitan will shade you all day. I will not. There's
All day.
no wrong way to play the game. If you're enjoying it, having a good time, God bless you. Enjoy the game. But for me, it comes alive in multiplayer, and the alliance mechanic is dope, and I love it as a mechanic. It hasn't quite found its stride for me. I think it's getting there with the mutants. I think some of these cards are starting to hit and feel better. But, it has some team-up vibes for me. Like, it just, team-ups are hard to hit. They don't always feel amazing. But overall, I think it's better than average card. So I will say 6 out of 10. And I'm higher on this card than anybody else. Bananas, put that in your log. We rated this kind of in the middle, though, all of us. Like, no one's super high on this card.
It's fine.
I didn't see this. I don't think I saw many Alliance cards at the con. Same with I didn't see any team ups.
I do now want to bring an alliance deck to the con though.
Yes.
Now I'm like, okay, like let's do this
Next year. Let's bring some Alliance stuff. Maybe there'll be more Alliance stuff by then. I don't know.
Then the thing that, like, as we were talking about it, talking about how it's hard to line up, I want to challenge one of the listeners, because I think there's a really interesting Miss Marvel build out there, because her alter ego supports, I think, can help line this up very, very well.
Amen.
So I think that would be a fun little build to try out.
Yeah, you could get those allies on the bottom, right? And you could stash joining forces and then know when you're going to draw into each. That's a pretty clever idea.
Stick 3 cards under Bruno. Could be
Yes.
your 2 Guardians and your joining forces.
That's easy enough right there. And then put them in your hand. But you can also use Amir to put a card on the bottom so you'll know when you're going to draw in Yeah, okay, I like it. Listeners, viewers, please let me know what you think about this card. Let me know what you think about adding the deck segment. Did you like that? Do you want more of that? Do you want less of that? Give me your feedback, and I'll do whatever I want with it. I think you will
Fair
see
enough.
more. Hey, it's my show. Make your own podcast. Just kidding. Just kidding. The People's Podcast is here for you. No, I think this is, let me know what you think about these, and I'd be curious to hear your decks. I'll publish these links down below, so you can go check these decks out, play them, let me know what you think, let Nelson know what you think about his deck, and which one you like better. Post your decks. I want to see them. That'd be cool. So I think this is fun, make it a little more interactive. I love the deck building and the community aspect of Marvel CTB, so thanks for joining us, Nelson. Where can people find you if they are not aware?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's always great talking with y'all, and this was a really fun episode.
Heck yeah.
You can find me on YouTube or Twitch. I am Nelson all over on Twitch, and then Nelson all over cards on YouTube.
Yeah, you are streamer. You stream a lot. That's what you prefer more than anything, right? More than recorded videos, you like streaming.
I do enjoy streaming a lot more. I like being able to interact, and then I feel like I don't have to be as perfect.
Yeah, you can make mistakes. That's fair enough. Yeah, thanks for being here. It was a great time having you. It was good to talk about this card. Thanks for indulging in some deck building, and I look forward to having you on again in the future sometime. And I can tease here, I think, as long as you're okay with it, there is another episode we're doing together on your channel coming up very soon. It's either already released at the time of this, or it's very soon to be released, where we're going to be talking about a different Alliance card.
Very excited for that.
So teaser, go check out Nelson's channel. I'll leave a link down. If you are listening to this, you know who Nelson is, but I'll leave a link anyway, just out of respect for him. LazyTitan, also thank you for being here. And everybody else, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We will see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Later.
Bye.